The store had glass doors. That was the first thing people noticed. Glass doors that caught the afternoon light and threw it back at you like something proud. Above the entrance, in clean, bold letters, was a name. Her name. Not his. Not the name of the man she had carried through university on her back. Not the name of the man who had thrown her bag onto a front step and closed the door without looking back. Her name. Ego. And inside that store, behind the counter, stood a young woman in her mid-20s with deep, warm brown skin and neat cornrow braids and small gold studs in her ears. No designer clothes, no borrowed confidence. Just a woman who had built something with the same hands that had once counted someone else's school fees. This is part 4. And before it is over, you will understand that what Chinedu threw out that Tuesday night was not a burden. It was a foundation. She arrived at Adaze's door at 8:30 in the evening. 1 bag, 2 hands, the clothes on her back. Everything else was still scattered on a front step somewhere in the city. Adaze opened the door and looked at her for a long moment. She did not say, "I told you so." She did not say anything. She simply stepped aside and let Ego in. That night, Ego lay on a real bed, not a sofa, not a floor, and stared at the ceiling in the dark. She had stared at ceilings before. In the 8 months she had spent in that house, she had become an expert at staring at ceilings, counting the things she could not fix, cataloging the ways she had made herself smaller. But this ceiling belonged to someone who had chosen to open a door for her. And for the first time in a very long time, the darkness above her felt like possibility rather than weight. She did not sleep for a long time, but when she finally did, she did not dream of Chinedu. She dreamt of the market. She went back on a Thursday morning. Not dramatically, not with a speech or a plan or a declaration. She simply woke up, folded the wrapper Adaze had lent her, tied it at her waist, and walked to the Onitsha market the way she had walked there 1,000 times before. The market received her the way markets always receive the people who belong to them, without ceremony and without judgment. The noise, the color, the smell of fresh fish and dried pepper and morning air, it all closed around her like something familiar and forgiving. Mama Esther saw her coming from 3 stalls away.
The older woman said nothing. She did not ask where Ego had been. She did not ask what had happened. She had eyes. She could see the bag that was too small and the face that was carrying something too large. She simply pointed at the empty spot beside her stall, and Ego took it. She arranged a tray of fish the way she had arranged 1,000 trays before, neatly, deliberately, with the particular care of someone who understands that how you present a thing is the first argument for its value. And when the first customer came, she smiled, not because she was happy, but because she had decided to be. The narrator paused here, because this is the moment everything turns. Not the store opening, not the investor, not Chinedu's eventual reckoning. This moment. A young woman arranging fish on a tray in the Onitsha market, choosing to smile, choosing to begin.
She did not come back to the market because she had to. She came back because she knew how. And knowing how to build something is the most dangerous thing a person can carry.
She worked differently this time. Before, her work had been in service of someone else's future. Every naira saved had been earmarked for Chinedu's fees, Chinedu's food, Chinedu's transport. She had been building a man and calling it building a life. Now she was building only for herself. And the difference was visible, not in how hard she worked, because she had always worked hard, but in how she thought. She kept records. A small notebook, cheap, bought from the stationery stall 2 rows over. In it she wrote her daily sales, her supplier costs, her profit margins. Numbers she had always known in her head, but never written down because they had never felt like they were hers to keep. Now they were. Within 3 months she had 2 regular clients. Within 5 months she had established a daily supply agreement with a canteen operator who needed volume and consistency. Within 6 months she was no longer just selling at a table, she was coordinating supply. It was during this period that Ebuka found her. He had been watching for weeks, not intrusively, just observing things, the way serious people observe things they are considering investing in. He had noticed the notebook, he had noticed the records, he had noticed that her fish was always fresh, always well preserved, always delivered on time. He came to her stall on a Tuesday afternoon and introduced himself. He told her he owned the largest frozen food distribution warehouse in the area. He told her he had been watching her work. He told her he invested in serious people. And then he made her an offer. Ego listened to the entire offer without interrupting. Then she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, calmly, without any performance of confidence she did not feel, that she appreciated the offer, but she had 2 conditions. Ebuka raised an eyebrow. She said she wanted 60% ownership, not 40%, and she wanted her name on the store, not a trading name, not a brand name, her actual name, the name her mother gave her. Ebuka looked at her for a long moment. Then he smiled. He said those were the conditions of someone who understood what they were building. He said he would draw up the paperwork. Ego did not celebrate when he walked away. She opened her notebook and wrote down the date. Just the date. A record. Because everything she was building from now on deserved to be recorded. While Ego was building, Chinedu was unraveling. The job he had used as proof of his arrival, the job he had leveraged to dismiss her, to shame her, to call her a monument to his embarrassment, was gone by the 9th month. Restructuring, they called it. 2 months' compensation and a cleared desk. Adana left within the week. She had not signed up for a struggling man. She had signed up for the version of Chinedu that wore a corporate shirt and had a salary that hit his account on the last Friday of every month. That version no longer existed. She packed her designer bags, the ones whose presence in the bedroom had first told Ego everything, and she left, pleasantly, without drama, the same casual ease with which she had arrived. His mother grew distant in the way that mothers sometimes do when the thing they were proud of stops performing. Chinedu sat in the living room of the house whose rent was now entirely his problem, and felt, for the first time, the particular weight of a life built on someone else's foundation. He thought about Ego, not with guilt exactly, with the particular discomfort of a man beginning to understand the arithmetic of what he had done. He heard through a mutual contact that she was back at the market. He heard she was doing well. He heard about the investor. He told himself it did not matter, but he went to the market anyway. He told himself he just wanted to see. He saw her from a distance first, neat cornrow braids, plain blouse and wrapper, moving between her stall and a delivery point with the focused efficiency of someone who has somewhere to be. She saw him too. She saw him the moment he entered the market, and she did not stop working. She did not run. She did not rage. She simply continued, tallying a delivery, speaking to a supplier, writing in her notebook, as if he were a weather event, something that had happened, something that was now passing through. Ebuka stood at the edge of the market for a few minutes watching her work. Then he left. He did not know what he had expected. But it was not that.
The renovation took 6 weeks. Ego was there every day, not to supervise from a distance, but to work. She painted walls, she arranged shelvings, she tested the freezer units, she made decisions about lighting and layout with the same careful attention she had once given to a man's ironing schedule. Except this time, every decision she made was permanent.
This time, nobody could close a door on what she was building. On the morning the store opened, Adaze arrived first, then Mama Esther, dressed in her best Ankara, carrying a small bottle of schnapps for prayers, then Ebuka, who stood slightly to the side and watched with the quiet satisfaction of a man who had bet on the right person, then neighbors, traders from the market, women who had watched Ego sell fish under the sun for years and had never quite understood why she always looked like she was waiting for something. Now they understood. She was waiting for this. Ego stood at the glass doors of her store and looked at the people who had come. She did not make a long speech. She said 3 things. She said she was grateful. She said this was only the beginning. And she said, quietly, directly, without looking at anyone in particular, that she had learned something in the last 4 years that she wanted every woman standing in front of her to know. She said, what you build for someone else teaches you how to build for yourself. Then she opened the glass doors and the afternoon light came in. He came on a Wednesday afternoon, 3 weeks after the opening. He was dressed neatly, but not the way he used to dress. No corporate shirt, no leather shoes, just clean, plain clothes, the clothes of a man who has stopped performing a rival. He stood outside the glass doors of the store for a moment before entering. He looked at the name above the entrance, her name. Then he pushed the door open and walked in. Ego was behind the counter, reviewing a delivery manifest when he entered. She looked up. She saw him. She did not change her expression. She waited. He walked to the counter. He said he had heard about the store. She said nothing. He said it looked good. She said thank you. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, and this cost him something, she could see it cost him, that he had made mistakes, that he had treated her badly, that he was sorry. Ego looked at him for a long moment. The man in front of her was not the man who had thrown her bag onto a front step. That man had been propped up by a salary and a woman in a red dress and the particular arrogance of someone who had mistaken being capable for being helped. This man was smaller, quieter, more honest. She looked at him for a long moment, and then she said 4 words. She said, I know you are. Not I forgive you, not come back, not it is fine. I know you are. An acknowledgement, not a door. She went back to her delivery manifest. Chinedu stood at the counter for another moment. Then he nodded once, and he left. The glass doors closed behind him, and Ego continued counting. 4 years ago, she sold fish under the sun to pay for his school fees. 3 years ago, she stood in a graduation crowd in her best blouse and cried from relief when he called her name. 2 years ago, she apologized for an earring that was not hers. 1 year ago, she sat on a front step with her scattered belongings and made a call. 4 words, I am coming out. And she did. She came out of everything he put her through, and she built something with the same hands that had built him. Glass doors, her name above the entrance, 60%, the afternoon light coming in. This is not a story about a man who forgot her. This is a story about a woman who remembered herself. And when a woman like Ego remembers who she is, there is no version of this story where she does not win. Thank you for watching all 4 parts. If this story moved you, share it. If you know a woman who carried someone else's dream and is still waiting for her own, send it to her. Subscribe and stay with us, because Life Stories with the Innocent is just getting started.